Welcome back to the Champion Bengals podcast, presented by Play Action Sports. I am your host, Bengals, and this is my co-host, Chappie. We're back, fresh off touching off those Thanksgiving games. We got a Week 13 slate in the NFL to talk about. Some eventful shit went down, that's for sure. Safe to say I'm not in the greatest mental state, that's for damn sure, because the Bengals are probably officially eliminated from the playoffs right now. And it's been a hell of a roller coaster coming to terms with that. But at the same time, you got to look at it as, oh, fuck, no, I don't got to stress every week going into it. I can just lay back, let the players do their thing. And it's mock draft season for me, guys. So I'm checked out now. But I want to get into a couple of these hot topics. And first one is going to take us straight into the Jacksonville Jaguars game. And how do I pronounce this guy's name? Azeez Al-Shaair with that ridiculous hit on Trevor Lawrence. And I want to start this off hot. Chappie, my man, what'd you think of that hit on Trevor Lawrence, buddy?
No, that was fucked up. Don't have
disgusting.
To say anything to say it twice.
Absolutely disgusting.
I know the media is definitely ripping into this guy on another level. You know what it was to me is as that play was developing, right? And you clearly know what QBs are going to do in this league now. It's well established what's happening, unless you're basically Josh Allen at that point. Everyone else is taking that slide.
Yep.
If you zoomed in on Buddy's face as Trevor Lawrence is going down, you can see this guy's face like scrunch up aggressively and fucking drill Trevor Lawrence. Like that was headhunting at its like
he led here. With his elbow.
He led everything.
This guy went in and
he was fucking like, you saw it in this guy's eyes. And it, like HD allows you to do that now in fucking today's world. Like this guy's face was well on display. He was trying to murder this guy basically. Like
that was a fucking kill shot.
I was like, holy fuck, what just happened? Like, and then obviously you pray for Trevor Lawrence, and I'm so happy that the team stepped in, and I'm so happy that on the flip side of this, they're like, yo, this is not what we're about, right? Like, and whatever suspension is going to come is probably going to just set the tone on everything.
If there's forward. A suspension,
if there's not just like a fucking see ya, like
the league has to really do something about this shit, because they worked their ass off to get to this point where it's like, okay, we're setting a standard here now, and we all know that. That's why we're so angry after we saw that. We knew Trevor Lawrence was going to give himself up. The guy just came back from injury, for fuck's sakes. Yeah. And this dude goes for a kill shot in the first quarter. Unfucking believable. And you know what? I'm surprised there weren't more teammates like Evan Ingram jumping in there, dude. If you don't got guys that are doing that shit, man, because you would have had to put me in prison after the shit I would have done to somebody doing shit like that to my
Seriously,
quarterback, bro.
Though.
Like, that's insane to me, what I just witnessed there. I think I was sitting there with Val and we were watching the game, and we were just losing our minds. We were yelling at the TV because we're like, how could somebody fucking do that? That's unbelievable to me. So I just like, and to see he just came back from the injury, that was the worst part. To see that shit was crazy.
It's changed in the NFL, right? Like the quarterbacks are more protected than they've ever been in the history of the game. To have that play then run into what, like, it is so established at this point that these are going to be slides and that you don't touch the quarterback, and that if they're taking it, they take it, right? Because the NFL is like they've drilled into this, and the fact that it was like, Buddy was on a mission. Like, it was like he didn't even know who the fuck had the ball. Like, that's how crazy that hit was. And it was like, yo, what are you doing? And then, like, you see on the flip side of, like, we'll get into it later, but fucking Cooper DeJean and the tackle, like, that's how you fucking tackle, man. Like, and
absolutely,
that's the other side of it. But like the way that this guy went into it, he was headhunting. He was like, I'm not speaking for the guy, but like, it's hard not to at this point because of what he looked like, his expressions on his face, everything that came after that. It was fucking crazy.
And it's an emotional game. I understand it, but that was fucking nuts. And everybody, if you said otherwise, man, I'm not having a conversation with you about that because that was just egregious, man. And there's no need for that shit in this league anymore. and rightfully so. The fans throwing shit at him as he's walking out after the ejection. That was just insane. That was insane to see, man. So hopefully Trevor's okay. He bounces back. But I recently saw a little string of clips showing some more of those dirty hits from Aziz, and he just looks like a dirty player at this point. Yeah, and it sucks to spin that narrative, but dude, that's not the only one, man. You got a couple on tape, so that's pretty sad to see. And you know what? It is what it is. But I hope hopefully he gets fined and he gets suspended, and the league handles this properly at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
But in the game, like nothing crazy. Jaguars lose. Houston comes out on top. But it's just a string of like CJ Stroud looking super pedestrian so far this year. Nothing crazy. Obviously, they got the ball to Mixon. We were talking about this last show. Like, just give the guy his carries and let him do his thing, and that's ultimately what's going to help them win games. But aside from that, anything else stand out to you?
No, it's you kind of hit the nail on the head. The Jaguars are definitely in just one of those seasons that is one to forget, and obviously this doesn't help in that situation with your highest paid player and your most important player going down like that. So this is just going to be a season to forget, really and truly. And obviously the Texans, they're just kind of creeping on by, but I didn't trust them at the beginning of the season because I didn't trust that CJ Stroud was actually going to have a great sophomore season, and he's not, but they're still being able to put up some wins because of Joe Mixon and the other parts of the crew. So they've had a lot of injuries play into this season as well. I'm not sure what to make of the Texans, to be honest, and I don't think they're a contender by any means with their record. What it is, because I think a lot of these games you could flip on them, and I think that's the story here. So
yeah, I agree. It's kind of crazy when you look at it from like how dominant Stroud looked last year in his rookie season, and now to this year. It really is crazy. The NFL it's an anomaly in how
they get a book on you, right? Like they get a book on the team, so it's a whole season of, hey, this is what was making them successful. Let's shut it down. See if they can still do the same things. And definitely this offensive line surrounding him has been the chink in the armor, I would say. So teams have exploited it, and here we are. But
for sure. Hey. Well, off that topic, I want to come out with a bang there, talk about that guy, because that definitely got me fired up. But I want to kind of bounce over to another game here. We'll save the Bengals turmoil for a little bit later on. I wanted to talk about Mr. Kirko Chains in Atlanta here, laying a couple duds lately. What's that, 3 in a row for the Falcons they've dropped now after we thought, they were going to start to figure it out. And it's not like they've lost to good teams either. So they haven't really been showing up here. And once again against the Chargers this week, coming out the gate flat, only putting up 13 points. Chargers came away with this one, and it's not like they did anything special either. So what are your thoughts? Kind of where are the Falcons at right now with Kirk and how this team is looking?
I still think this team, like Bijan had a massive game. Kirko had a decent game, like when it came to the fucking yardage and everything else. Now, Kirko's been throwing picks like it's going out of fucking style lately. And that has been the biggest, I think, change on, what this season has looked like for Atlanta, because, you can't be out there throwing 4 interceptions and doing that in games and expect to win.
Absolutely.
You can't do that without throwing a single touchdown either. Now this game was tight, but you throw one touchdown, this game changes because of the other offensive talent on the team. So, this was a tough game to kind of watch, especially from a Falcons perspective. We said that last little bit here with the Chargers, they're just humming, they're just playing a game, right? And I don't know what to think of Atlanta. I think this division as a whole is just so fucking weird.
It's always been like this too, though, right? Like every year prior to, it's always just a
what is it? I think that teams. There are overall standings right now. They're 12th or 13th in the overall standings, and they're first. So
like every year,
this
it's
doesn't
the
make
same
any
shit.
fucking sense.
Like they're like sub 500 teams rolling into the playoffs, playing a home game in the playoffs, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck is this division even? Like, I don't understand it, and we're getting it again this year. It looks like.
Oh, it's the exact same situation.
Falcons are dropping it. The Bucks just won yesterday, so they're like right there with Atlanta, and it's like, holy crap, here we go again with this division, man. Just when you think someone's going to pull away.
Interesting play on this game. Team stats for it. You had the Chargers with 24 minutes of possession. Atlanta Falcons had 35 minutes and 55 seconds of possession. That is a pretty big swing in the other direction. And the offensive plays 46-77, and they lost this game.
It's pretty wild.
So this is some pretty crazy stuff. And even offensive yards, 187-350. They lost this in the hands of Kirk Cousins, right? If he throws one touchdown, if he gets some level of involvement, if you watch the game, like they were just he was just forcing it, right? And then just not forcing it into the right plays. And maybe that just speaks to the pressure that was coming from the Chargers D, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough to see what the schedule is going to look like kind of going forward. I do think they're in a decent spot, but we'll kind of see as it progresses, because this division is just such a fucking up in the air situation. And none of these teams should be able to
someone's got to win the division.
Someone's got to win the division, and that's the crazy part to what these records are right now. And so yeah, we'll see. I don't think there's a whole lot else to kind of go through there, but
I think one thing
situation.
Yeah, it is. I just look at this. I'm like, can you really, like, with Kirk? He kind of does this though. This is what he's always been. What he is. Like, he's never been a runaway great quarterback in this league. He's had great moments, and then he has strings of really bad moments. So that's kind of what he is. So I don't know. I expected this. It's just, how long does this last before it's like, all right, like, fuck, let's run Michael Penix in there and see what he's got. If they start dropping games, I think that could definitely be the scenario. But some quick fantasy kind of standouts in the game. Bijan, 26 carries, 102 yards, 28.5 fantasy points. He's been having a hell of a year from a fantasy perspective too. Super consistent, and kind of a riser here, Ladd McConkey, 12 targets, 9 receptions, 117 yards. I know he got injured a little bit at the end. Yeah, he got injured. And I think with him, you kind of expect it just with the size that he is, and I just don't see him carrying this volume forward all the time, because I think from a physical standpoint, he's going to get banged up a little bit. So I do expect the Chargers to go out in the offseason and get somebody else to bring in there, so that obviously it doesn't just rely on him, but he's been a stud lately.
You don't trust Quentin Johnston?
I do not trust Quentin Johnston, especially when he's putting up this 4 targets, 2 receptions for 12 yards. You got to start doing things, man. You got to start doing things. But yeah, we really look at some of the other games here kind of on the slate. Another game I kind of wanted to talk about was this Cardinals Vikings game. The Cardinals blow it here. Like, they had a commanding lead at one point and had control of the game, but Arizona doing Arizona things. And of course, Jeff with his Viking picks every single week.
Viking picks, man.
In true Viking fashion, money line. Just winning games right now.
No, this is, and so kind of funny enough, you look at these contending teams right now in the division, right? And Minnesota is just in this weird situation where they keep winning games, and they're just on the heels of Detroit, right? But do you feel like Minnesota should be just on the heels of Detroit?
No, I don't.
And it's such a weird season for them, but I can't not say that the success of this, right? Like, if, in my opinion, if they were not winning and winning effectively, then you wouldn't be 7-4 against the spread, right? Like, you are winning games handedly, and you're also doing it in a fashion that is like consistent. So I can't say that this team isn't showing up weekly and doing what they need to do to be able to put themselves in a win column. So it's just such an interesting fucking season that I look at this team and I think they do have the weapons. Sam Darnold has been great all season long. It's like it's no different. Like he's just been great. I can't, like, when you look at this, like, compare him to the other quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and you can slot him in top 10 this season. And the team is performing. The offense is performing. Justin Jefferson hasn't done fucking anything really this season. And they're winning. So that to me speaks more about this team's ability to get it done than anything else. You haven't even unleashed the fucking weapon yet. Like, you haven't even let this guy go. So
I don't think it's that though. I think, like, when you look at it and I watch Jefferson, I'm like, you should be able to get your guy the ball. Like, regardless of, like, Jefferson coming out being like, well, if I'm not eating like the rest of my guys are eating, we're winning games. Like, that's only going to hold for so long before that turns into shit, especially in games where they fucking matter. And
but that's
big
when
moments happen and you need to go to your guy and it's not an option to just go elsewhere. I think that's where it's going to come down, and you're going to see that.
But do you not think
I see that coming.
Doing it? Like, they are doing that. They're providing themselves the depth in order to go. Now, obviously, he had a good game here in terms of yardage and receptions, 7 and 99. But I find that this team is far more. I don't need to target this guy. I want to, but I don't need to. And, like, Jordan Addison and, like, everything on the other side of this, like, Aaron Jones has been a wicked ad for this team. Like, they got TJ Hawkinson back. He's not yet rounded into complete form yet, but it's probably coming soon. So there's a lot of offensive weapons that they're able to kind of rely on. And Sam Darnold's got a lot of choices, and he's picking and choosing. So it's
a very balanced team.
It is a very balanced team. A well-balanced, plus the defense. If I were to rank them, right, like, you're probably saying, what are you going to say? Is this going to be a top 10 offense in the league right now?
No.
You don't think so? Would you call it a top 10 defense?
Yeah, probably defensively.
Top 10 defense, and you're probably
I would say
in that
it's probably
top 15
middle of the pack offense. Yes.
Offense. So that's a balanced approach, right?
Yeah.
And more teams are probably in the flip where it's, they're not in that top 10 or top 15 situation. And they're either going to be either a really good offense or a really good defense. And that's what's winning them games. In this situation, they're a bit of both. So
that's
like,
just,
they're putting up points.
To the balance,
and like Arizona, right? Like,
I thought they blew that one. Like, they had a pretty
commanding right
lead.
In the end. Yeah.
And this is what I think it is when it comes to Minnesota. It's like other teams find a way to lose too, but it's more of like Minnesota's just been on the receiving end of a lot of these bounces. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say it just happens. They've created a lot of the bounces too, but I don't know how reliant you can be. I want to see what this team looks like when they're down by a fucking touchdown, and you need it. You got to have it. And it's not the defense making the play, like the offense, though. You know what I mean?
Okay, I got you. I was going to say, like, we're down by a touchdown. They were down.
I need a drive from Sam Darnold, and I'm down, and there's a minute and a half left. I have one time. Like, that's the shit I want to see, because that's what you're going to get in the playoffs, right? Not Kyler Murray making a fucking mistake, or the Bears last week making a mistake. Like, not other teams gifting you things like that. So we'll see how that plays out. But you got a good game from Marvin Harrison Jr. He's kind of the roller coaster that is. He goes from 3 catches for 37 yards to actually having a day, and it's just kind of that back and forth. But, man, when you look at this Trey McBride guy, do you know what his line is for receptions this week? I think his line was like 5.5 on receptions. This dude has 12 receptions, it seems like, every week. It's fucking nuts.
Well, they played Minnesota, right? Like, that on the secondary.
Still, last week, I think he had 12 targets as well. Like, it's pretty crazy.
No, it's up there.
The volume
I won't say. I think
the
Vikings are like the 27th worst defense against receiving. So that or maybe worse. So it's I won't take too much into that, because you can run back to back on these situations and inflate your numbers. But no, Trey McBride has been second to Brock Bowers this season in tight end ranking, right? So no, they've definitely it's their coming out party for sure in terms of the fantasy value that they've provided. But yeah, just it's just one of those games. It's I don't know, creeping by, and Minnesota's doing their thing, and 10-2.
I mean, they're both in it, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how it looks down the stretch here, especially with that Cardinals division, man. That's going to be a fun one to see who gets in there.
What is that? Yeah, who knows? It's up for grabs though. So it's going to be.
I think, and we'll talk about the Bills, the 49ers, but I think the Niners they're done now. So it's kind of a 3-team race, 3-horse race in this one now. So
get into the news
see how that
one too.
That plays out later on. But let's talk about I think another team you can kind of slowly lower into the ground here in the New York Jets going up against the Seahawks. To me, looked like the Jets had this game, and they were winning. I think they were up by 2 touchdowns at one point in the game, and they just found a way to lose. And it's just, this is what the Jets have
21-6,
right?
I think at one point.
Yeah, at one point, and they still lost the game, which is pretty incredible. But that's kind of what you're getting with this team, man. And I think you're starting to pack it in. Like, I think Brees was injured a little bit. Team's starting to pack it in. You got the Seahawks here who are putting together some decent wins and starting to get the team rolling. Seahawks have been quite the roller coaster this year, but that's what Jets. I think we saw there's a poll. Like, what we threw up a poll the other day. What are the odds Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of this team next year? Are they running it back, or what's going on? What do you think?
Yeah, so we did. We threw out another poll. If you guys haven't been involved in those, follow our page on Instagram. We throw up some stupid meme shit and get some traction, but it's a good way for us to also get kind of a gauge on Play Action Nation out there. And so what the question was is Aaron Rodgers the right quarterback to get the franchise to the Super Bowl? And the 2 options for the answer were no, move on, he's washed, or yes, he's our guy. And resounding results. 82% believe no, move on, he's washed. And I
would agree with you. He is washed. I think that's a wrap on A-Rod.
Yep, I think this is the end of the story. I think what it comes down to, it's like, and Jets fans in the comments have told us as well. It's just and this is what got him out of Green Bay. It's the diva shit. It's the other stuff that's kind of come into play, like the center of attention, and it's got to go through me. And they've seen their team literally get set back years based on the moves that have been made to cater to this guy. And I think that's the crazy part. Devontae Adams, that whole situation. Did you need him in that spot? No. Was he an option? Sweet. Cool. What are you going to do now next year? And then you run into the same situation where it's like, well, we just traded away Zach Wilson. Now, what's the situation there? Nothing, right? But now you're going to have to do it again. So what is the point of this? Like, they're actually, Zach Wilson's record was better in this situation last year than Aaron Rodgers is right now. And you fired the coach, you changed up the whole fucking system, all to kind of appease the great Lord and Savior. And like, seriously, at this point, what the fuck are we doing? So
listen, I will say, there. Yeah, the record's not there. It hasn't worked out. I'm not gonna blame them for going all in and doing this, though.
No, I agree.
They took their shot. You can't knock them for taking their shot. It didn't pan out.
You want the team to take a shot.
I think it's gone horribly wrong. It sucks. They went out. They got Devontae Adams too. Like, they did everything they possibly could.
Should or could.
Right. So hats off to them for trying. It just didn't.
Firing the coach was probably stupid, though.
Fuck. I mean, he's been there for a couple of years now, and it just, oh my God. We're watching the game, and Jerry Jeudy just got a big touchdown, and I'm going to lose my fantasy matchup. I love that. Holy shit. We're doing this podcast with the Browns game going on, and it's an absolute barn burner. Crazy to see something opposite of what the Jets do. But back to that take. I think that's a wrap on them. And
let's go Browns. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah. But some other stuff I kind of wanted to get into based on this week here. Guess who's back? Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. Guess we're not so flat anymore. So, damn. How about them?
Yeah, I know that obviously we've been kind of waiting for that kind of a game to come back around for them. Jaden Daniels had a massive game here. And I don't know. You're facing the Tennessee Titans. I think we said this on last, like we expect Washington to have one of these games where they just kind of have one of those 40 burger, like they were on a run at the beginning of the season. Tennessee is Tennessee. Again, not the scrappy team that we said they're squeaking out a win here and there.
They have their moments, like they showed last week against Houston, and then this is what they do, right?
But then Houston's the same team where it's like, what are they, and are they contenders? So you could run the same argument here into this game. Like, is Washington going to be that team? They've shown flashes of absolute dominance. This is definitely part to it, right? I think what do you have? 3 touchdowns. I think he had one on the ground as well. Like, Jaden Daniels had a huge game, definitely from a fantasy perspective, 28.64 points. On the ground, they just kind of ran through Tennessee. And yeah, like, again, we said, like, it's funny, Will Levis's stat lines are so interesting to me, man. Every single week, I feel like this guy's putting up 2 touchdowns over, like, couple, like, 100 yards. And it's never enough. Like, this guy's he just does some weird shit. So it always comes back around, but it's just such an interesting, like, this Tennessee team, hopefully they just kind of figure it out, but not this game for sure. What were your thoughts?
My thoughts were, Tennessee gets the emotional victory. Last week, I get that. They come back, they lay an egg. Like, you got to expect that. They just got beat the fuck up, man. I think every time I turned the channel, like, Washington was in the red zone. It was B-Rob TD, Jaden Daniels in the end. Was it Terry McLaurin, 2 touchdowns?
Terry McLaurin had 2. Yep.
Huge game from Washington side of things, and that was a big get-right game for them. They needed that because they were going through a stretch of, like, the offense wasn't really firing. So, big game for them. But aside from that, like, that was it. Titans, kind of a wrap. The one stat, I think it's Nick Westbrook-Akine. This dude has a touchdown, like, every single week.
7 of his last season. 8, I think.
7 of 8. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he's probably not even rostered on a lot of teams.
I think it's 8 of 9, actually, because I think he's got 8 touchdowns on the season, and he's, like, right behind the main players, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so got to be top 5 in touchdowns. It's like death, taxes, and every week Westbrook-Akine getting a touchdown. It's wild to see. But not too much else coming out of this game. Some headlines, and I want to save myself, but I want to get into this Bengals game. And I think we should just dive into that right now.
Let's roll.
I want to get the outside perspective because I know I'm a biased fan and I've been through the ups and downs of what this was. But going into this game, this was a gotta-have-it game for Cincinnati. Coming off of a bye week, you expect them to go out there and get a big win, especially with everything that's been happening. But, Jeff, what are your thoughts from the outside? Where's your head at after seeing what was displayed on the weekend, Steelers-Bengals game? You're allowing Russell Wilson and the Steelers to put up 44 fucking points on you. That's not good. That's not good.
So we're gonna hark this back to 6 weeks ago, and I believe they were 3-0. And you asked me the question. You said, "Chap, you think that Steelers are contenders or pretenders?" And I said, I think the Steelers are contenders. I think they have something here that, might really push the agenda on some things. It's just a weird, their defense is good. Their offense just seems just interestingly dynamic. I didn't like it with Matt Cannon. Now without him, it seemed to give it a boost. What happened here? And here we go, 9-3, 4-8 on the Cincinnati Bengals. So, and I remember you specifically. I think it was Wrong. That's wrong. They're not contenders. How are we feeling right about now? Having seen that the Pittsburgh Bengals just shit 44 points on to, or the Steelers did that to the Bengals.
Said the Pittsburgh Bengals.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Bengals. Fuck it. You get what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying, but I just want to point this out. And I'm looking at like a lot of the takes today, and everyone's like, "Oh, Russell Wilson, this and that." I just want to say every fucking offense that plays the Bengals defense, the quarterback gets put into the MVP conversation every fucking week. That's how bad this defense is. Every team is putting 30 plus points on us. It doesn't matter who you are. 30 points are getting hang on our head every single week. And every week, it doesn't matter who it is. If it's Baltimore, you're talking about Lamar being the MVP playing the Bengals. If it's last week against the Chargers, it's Justin Herbert. Is he in the MVP conversation? Like, and now it's Russell Wilson. Like, you guys are losing your mind, man. You're looking at historically one of the worst defenses you will ever see in the history of the fucking game. Like, historically. It's unbelievable to see this shit. So when you're talking about Pittsburgh being a contender, dude, did you watch that game? It's like a hot knife through butter. They're
so bad. Like
the defense is atrocious.
So bad. It is the worst.
It's the worst.
It is absolutely the worst. It's actually like, fuck, man, over 70 points. Like, this is crazy. Like, you can't look at this and think that, okay, like the Steelers are being well coached. They're put together.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. They are a good team. They are a good team.
The Bengals definitely.
They're going to compete.
I feel
by
so
no
bad
means
for Burrow.
I
laughed. So the question that came out was like, hey, are you starting to realize that you guys probably aren't making the playoffs? And his reaction to that question was so like, I'm not even thinking about that at this point. It's the furthest part of my mind is that fucking the playoffs. And that's so sad to hear given what he's been doing. And at this point, he's just trying to get Chase paid. He's just like, fuck it. Like, if we're going to go down, I might as well just get my boy fucking paid. And this is what we're going to do. Yeah.
That last drive after Pittsburgh went up, and then it was just basically like, all right, like Pittsburgh goes into prevent defense. We get that garbage touchdown at the end. Yeah, he was just looking for Chase. He was looking for Chase in the end zone again. And he's like, all right. And that's what it's going to be the rest of the way is I said this on the other podcast we did. I was like, I just want them to go and pump the shit out of the stats, go for the Triple Crown, do their thing. And then Jamar's going to have to get paid a massive bag, and it's going to be hung over this organization's head for such a colossal fuck up for what they've done the past couple of years to deteriorate this team.
And you know what it is? It's worse off because now that you have to do that, you have to pay this guy or set yourself back. But paying this guy will also potentially set you back. So there's like so many situations that you have to do it. You have to get your tandem there. And they've proven that they're fucking amazing, and you would never want to split that up. But on the flip side, now you have to fill all these other holes that are clearly evident on the defense, and that costs money too. So it's just such a fucking do right by what? You know, I'm gonna do right by Chase by paying him the contract that he deserves, but in vicariously by doing that, I'm gonna fuck my organization up.
Yeah,
in
but you're
some case.
Listen, to me, that doesn't even go hand in hand because you have the best offensive player in the league at your disposal, how is that fuck?
Defense wins. This season is the epitome of the old adage: defense wins championships.
Not necessarily.
No, 100%.
When you go into the playoffs, who wins the games? Is it the offense or the defense?
It's the one who doesn't score the fucking points.
I promise you, every single one of these teams, like the teams you're talking about, the Minnesota Vikings, the Pittsburgh Steelers, those teams that have middle-of-the-pack offenses, but they have good defenses. What was Pittsburgh ranked in defense? Were they like one of the top 3 overall in defenses? How many fucking points we just lay on them?
38.
Exactly. So you're going to tell me that's the best defense? If we had a middle-of-the-pack defense, we win all these games. And that's the difference. That's all you need. It's the offenses that win these games. And I promise you down the line, your Minnesota Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers and these teams are not going to win the big fucking games because they can't score points and they can't hang with the big dogs.
Listen, they can definitely score points when they need to, clearly. But
against
on the other
bad
side
defenses,
of this,
sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but look, we got Pittsburgh against the Eagles coming up. How you feel about them?
Pittsburgh against the Eagles?
Be close?
I honestly think it will be a close game.
And the reason for it now. Easy.
The reason
what
for
happened?
It,
what happened with Baltimore against the Eagles?
Yeah,
Baltimore got smacked. Now
yeah,
you got
that's
Pittsburgh.
A different. It's not even that it's different. No, it's legitimately that this team, obviously they're terrible on defense. We know what they are, right? But in these situations, you still got to lock it down. We saw that was a low-scoring affair, right? It was definitely not what was pegged out to be. There are situations where Pittsburgh can show up, will show up, and able to scrap out a win because of their defense, not because of their offense. So that's the difference maker here. You cannot say at any point throughout the season that your defense held the team enough in check, except for that one opportunity a couple weeks ago in LA where that opportunity was there. And the only reason that opportunity was there was because the defense was holding them in check. And that's the only case scenario there where that played. Now, your offense was great. Your offense was fantastic. But what came down to the last little bit? The defense on the Chargers side of the ball.
You're arguing about like the worst defense in the league, like the absolute bottom of the league in defense. That is the difference here. I'm saying if middle of the pack defense, we would be a way better team if we just had a middle of the pack. I don't even need anything spectacular. I need a rank 15 defense, and this team wins 5 more games than where we're at. That's all I'm saying. But when you look at Pittsburgh, I'm not fucking afraid of Pittsburgh, man. Like, as soon as they roll into the playoffs, do your thing, Pitt, because you're probably not winning much. It's a first-round bounce if I've ever seen one before. And it's going to be hats off to Mike Tomlin again. Wow, Mike, how do you do it? 500 every fucking year. But thanks for the first-round exits. What do you want? Like, do you want a team that's actually going to win you playoff games, or do you want to talk about how you guys finish 500 every fucking year?
They're not far off.
We'll see what happens. And you know what? We're going to get to that point, and I'll be sitting there, and I'll be laughing and clapping when the time comes, when they get bounced first round again, and everything's going to be right in the world because, you know what? Pittsburgh's 500, guys. You did it. Hoorah.
You know who's not 500 right now? The Cincinnati Bengals.
It's mock draft season now, man. We're done.
This is going to be a challenge, man. I don't know. I just think, to me,
there's a lot. I could do an entire segment on what needs to be done.
There's a difference on
the organization.
There's a difference on organization, the culture that organization brings, and why I bring up defense specifically with Pittsburgh is that is what their identity is, right? And you need that. And when you have that, and you go out there and you put up winning seasons, and they're putting up a big winning season, and they're going to get into the playoffs. That's what you want as a fan consistently. You would love to see that in the Bengals. You would love to see that in the Bengals. And right now, back to back, you can call injury on the other season, but this season, what is it? Right? And it is what it is. So we have another season where Pittsburgh is showing up and they're going to get into that dance, and another season where the Bengals didn't quite do it and they're not showing up to the dance. So,
hey, you guys can want what you want, but I would rather take a team that's going to be able to do something and have a couple of these bad years, if maybe we figure it out, than to just go in and lose every single round in the playoffs. If that's not what mediocrity is, then I don't know what we're doing here. And if you guys want that, by all means, do your thing. But at the same time, it is what it is. Hats off. The Steelers are in the position to play in the playoffs, first and foremost, even win the division with the state of what it's in right now. But Cincinnati's just, there's so many things wrong with these guys. There's so many things wrong. I would need multiple hours to even dive into that topic. But yeah, it's frustrating, as you can tell. So
I was going to say, there's a 500 franchise, but the Steelers do have 6 championships. And I think that's enough to say that.
Are we talking historically? We're talking about right now.
I'm talking about everything builds towards that And
we're talking about
if you know about winning culture,
right now.
that's how it gets there.
Completely understand that. But we're talking about right now.
Gotta have it.
We're not talking about 20, 30 years ago when they won their championships.
I'm talking about
practice. Is what it is.
We're not talking about practice. We're talking about the game, man.
That's it. But why don't we dive into that big game, Eagles-Ravens? That was kind of game of the week here. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, the two best running backs in the league, the two leading rushers, and who would have thought that they wouldn't have the impact on the game that you would have expected? I mean, both defenses are top in run defense, too, at the same time. So it's kind of interesting to see how that game went a little bit.
Well, it sounds like defense might have won this game.
My God. It's the overall, Jeff. Do you know that the Eagles and the Ravens are both also top 5 in offense?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yeah. They're great.
Did you know that?
They're great. They're
right.
Great teams.
They're very good, yes. But is there an offensive aspect to that? Wow. Yes, there is. So is it a bit of both? I would say so.
Absolutely.
So your little shtick about defense wins championships, it's not defense without the other side scoring, buddy.
Well, let's talk about defense. Cooper DeJean with the bomb. Let's go. What a
textbook tackle.
Textbook tackle, baby.
Take it in, pal. That's how you tackle somebody.
Unbelievable. I loved it. Wrapped up the king. I was like, oh, that's it right there. And he's like, oh, what do you say? He's not as heavy as I thought he'd be. I was like, yo, that's doubling down on your hit. I love it.
That was pretty wild to see from a rookie taking down Derrick. I don't think I've seen Derrick Henry get tackled.
I haven't seen Derrick Henry. I've seen Derrick Henry throw people. I've never seen Derrick Henry get hit like that. That was impressive.
Insane. That was insane. Crazy to see, but the game itself, I mean, wasn't really eventful. It's not a lot of like big plays. You know, it wasn't the sexiest game. I think the biggest headline coming out of this is Justin Tucker washed? Is that it for Tucker here? Because he's having a string of really bad games here, and he's missing extra points.
What's that Foreigner song?
Everything.
And games. Like he's got something going on there. I don't know what it is, but no, it's definitely he's definitely in his head, and holy shit, like watching these, it's hooking, it's every which way. It's not even like he's trying to put it, he's legitimately trying to find the center of that fucking upright, and he's in his head. It's crazy. For a guy that is as long-standing consistency, and Harbaugh said, right? What are you going to do? You're going to pull this guy? He's one of the best kickers, if not the best kicker all time. Like, how are you going to then just go, no, I don't really trust this guy anymore. That's the position that they're in, but the way that things are going, you can't not put him in that situation. But if you do, you kind of have to start thinking that there might need to be other options, fourth and whatever, because this is
part of the reason that Baltimore was so good is because they had such a good kicker. Like he was automatic every single time. And you look at the score of the game, like they lost by 5 points. Justin Tucker missed a couple field goals, and that's the difference in the game. And it seems like that's what it is every single week now. I don't know how that's going to carry over to the playoffs here. Like they could be losing games because they don't have a guy that can make these kicks. And that's not going to bode well for Baltimore, man. They've relied on him heavily. And to see the struggles there, I don't know. Like Harbaugh came out, he gave him the vote of confidence, and you got to do that because he's Justin Tucker. He's one of the best kickers in the history of the game, and you got to ride him. But we'll see how this plays out with him down the stretch, man. That could affect Baltimore in the playoffs. But aside from that, nothing really stands out on the offensive side of the ball. Really,
what did stand out to me is, and it obviously got brought up in the post game as well, is Lamar Jackson. And we talked about obviously the accuracy in certain situations, but he's starting to generate plays by not running the ball as much, and he's starting to just break away, find space. There was a situation in that game where, and the offensive line should get the credit here as well, where he legitimately stood in the pocket and took like a 15-step drop back. Like it was,
oh my God,
he
always does that though.
And then
he always does that.
But incredible, because he's just finding his options, right? And he's got an arm. Like he can definitely, it's starting to show through. But when he gets into these situations, he starts throwing. Like that one play against the sidelines to Mark Andrews was fucking incredible. And I know we've talked about it. I was always going to be on the Lamar side this season, based on your hot takes here at the beginning. But holy shit, hot. There are parts of this now. They're not winning as much. This game was obviously a tough game. 8-5. You started to pull them down from that kind of that top tier team right now in the NFL. I don't think they're not out of the contender list, but they're just starting to look on the fringe here as they go up against these bigger teams. And obviously, Philadelphia pulls this one out. Saquon had that huge run, kind of tipping the scales there. And I know we talked about the run defense there, but both sides of the ball here were pretty impressive actually on the run. So Derrick Henry, 19 for 82. Didn't get a touchdown. That's back-to-back games without a touchdown from Derrick Henry, which is an important stat line because if you look at his fantasy matchups, this tail to his season from a running back matchup perspective is a really, really tough strength of schedule. On the flip side of that, Saquon is just, he's dominant, man. He's I know we sent out the poll today, between, is Josh Allen the front runner? And we'll get the results on that for next week. But Saquon's right behind that. And we'll see how this kind of goes because it's definitely the QB award. But Saquon and the way that he's been playing, man, and just the breakaway and kind of the game breaker shit that he's been on. Like I think it's like 900 of his rushing yards has come in the last couple of games here. Like that's absurd. So,
and they got an easy stretch down here too. So I can see this guy cracking 2K. So it just based on matchups alone. But it was, it was two teams that are going to be in, the final stretch here in the NFL, and the Eagles are just building every single week, and especially with those rookies like Cooper DeJean. Man, they're playing well, and that was the problem they had was their secondary. Now you got these rookies that are heavily involved, man, and they're just getting better every week. It seems like the Eagles are going to be a scary team to play, so you got to watch out for them.
Yep.
But I think that's majority of the topics we wanted to touch on today. Pretty eventful week to say the least. I'm fired up because the dog shit that was the Cincinnati Bengals season, and I just can't wait to watch the rest of these teams and how it shakes out down the stretch. But do you have any parting words for the viewers there, Chappie?
No, we're definitely getting into a little bit of consistency here, and appreciate all the follows. And as we gain those kind of accounts, check us out on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're on YouTube. But if you're listening to us, check us out on there. Help support the show. And then, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Or X, I guess you want to call it now. I don't think anyone's going to call it that, but
Appreciate you guys tuning in. This is the Chappie and Bengals podcast. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
Easy.